me. And if it is, that's great. But welcome to college prep in a post-COVID world. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Get ready. You definitely want to use the Q&A box to take notes as well. Some things that I will be covering in this session with you all. Applying as a test optional, understanding when is the right time, whether or not you should be applying test optional. The pandemic has really been a game changer and thrown a wrench, so it's important that you all know what you need to do. I'm also going to be talking about demonstrating interest, MOOCs, capstone projects, virtual tours. I actually had a blog recently come out about virtual tours and the optional COVID college prompts. So much advice. Let me give you a real quick disclaimer though. The information I'm going to be giving you in this presentation is intended for highly selective colleges and universities. Also, always check with the institution that you are applying to for the most up-to-date information. Now, this may be your very first webinar with me, and if it is, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dale Price. I'm the founder and owner of Access College America. I did graduate from the University of Texas, Hook'em Horns. I'm a former senior admissions officer. I used to work at the Los Angeles Film School in Hollywood. I've actually been working in higher education since 2006. I am the past president and scholarship chair for the Texas Access Los Angeles chapter. If you live in Austin, you probably have seen my College Corner. That is my section I write for in the Austin American-Statesman, the Westlake Picayune, the Lake Travis View, and the list goes on. I'm also an active member of HECA and IECA. Fun fact, essays are my absolute favorite part of the entire college application, and I am a brand new dad as well. I do have two really awesome guests that I would like to introduce also at this moment. Our manager of operations, Alicia Walker, is going to be managing the chat lines, and I'm also going to introduce Bonnie Clefman. So Alicia, if you'd like to say a couple of quick things, and then Bonnie, I'll have you introduce yourself as well. Alicia, I believe Alicia is, oh, go ahead.
Hey everybody, we are so glad you're here tonight. And I just want to quickly tell you that we would love for you to type any questions that you have into the chat, and I will work behind the scenes to try to get all of your questions answered by Dale in the short amount of time that we do have, but we want to answer as many questions as you have. We are glad you're here. Please contact us if you have any questions afterwards. Thank you. Bye.
Great. And then next is our awesome associate college consultant, Miss Bonnie Clefman. I am so thrilled that she's here. You're going to be seeing her a lot. So Bonnie, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Welcome, friends and future scholars and excellent learners. So I am zooming in from the Charlotte area. I'm actually in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and I am a career specialist and brand new to the ACA team, and I'm super glad to be here. I'm actually from Ohio. My sister went to Ohio State. I went to University of Dayton in Ohio, and then came down to Spartanburg, South Carolina, to Converse College for my graduate degree. So we're really glad to have you learning with us tonight. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in, because I know that you folks are here to learn a lot of really good information and get a ton of updates. So here we go, dive in. First of all, it's important that families, you all know that every single thing is going to be fair game in the high stakes world of college admissions, starting from the summer going into your freshman year of college. This is going to be your story. Everyone is impacted by COVID. The pandemic has been a complete game changer, but realize admissions are going to be very forgiving of disruptions. A couple of things that I also want to explain to you guys about these disruptions. Applications are up at flagship institutions. That's very important that you all understand. It's interesting because now that all the programs, or so many colleges and schools have gone test optional, so many students now are applying to those institutions. So Harvard went test optional, Duke went test optional, University of Texas test optional, and so many students have now been applying to those colleges and those programs, which means it's going to be way more competitive. For example, University of California system across the board, the UCs, 15% peak in college applications last year. University of Georgia received over 25% more college applications as well. Harvard, 57% increase in college applications, and then MIT, 62% increase in college applications. So if you are applying to college, realize you have got to be more strategic because the competition is really, really going to be high. With that, unfortunately, acceptance rates are down. The more college applications a university receives, the more choosy they can be. So whereas Harvard received a 57% increase in college applications last year, that means over 10,000 students applied. That number may not sound that very high, but they only admitted 747 students. So acceptance rates are going to be down because they're not adding more chairs to the classroom. Also, realize that the test optional program, many of you are submitting your test scores when you should not be submitting some of those test scores. So when you submit your test score to a college or a university that is test optional and you're not within range, or there's various other factors that means that would have been intended for you to wait, that's going to be a pretty quick elimination for you. So understanding when and when not to submit those test scores is really going to be key. Want to go over a few other testing or a few other updates related to the pandemic as well. Let me do a screen share. Here we go. Okay, there's going to be a much greater emphasis on your transcripts, on recommendation letters, demonstrating interest to colleges and universities, the essays, especially this is true if you are not submitting your test scores. Those essays are going to be very, very, very important, especially that essay about why us. Why do you want to attend this college or this university? And college admissions officers are paying very close attention to how freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors have actually pivoted during the pandemic. What are you doing to create learning opportunities? What are you doing to take that learning experience outside of the classroom? Realize that your learning experience should not be a discrete learning experience confined to Zoom. You need to create opportunities for success. That is what highly selective colleges and universities are looking for. So when you do not submit your test scores, and realize if a college or a university is going to look at your supplements, that is going to be filtered even that much closely. So realize all of this has to really be in sync. Pro tip, have a balanced college list. That is a list of 6 to 8 schools, 6 to 8 schools. Alicia, do we have a question?
Yes. Can you clarify? They're asking which years of high school. So if you will address the time frame that you're discussing before their freshman year.
Got it. So, again, as I mentioned before, everything is fair game in the high stakes world of college admissions, starting from the summer going into your freshman year of college. Your college application is going to be done as a rising senior. Hopefully, you will submit your college application no later than October the 1st of your senior year for a whole lot of other variables. But everything you do your freshman year, everything you do your sophomore year, everything you do your junior year, all 4 years are just as important. So the clubs, the organizations, how you pivot during the pandemic, all of this is going to be extremely important. College admissions officers aren't just looking at what you did your junior year. All 4 years matter. I hope that answered your question. I'm going to go ahead and move back. I don't see that we have another question from you, Alicia, so I'll wait for you to take your mic off and then I'll connect back with you. But I'm going to go ahead and go back to my screen share as well. So having that balanced college list is extremely important of 6 to 8 schools. You'll want to have some safety, some targets, and some reaches. And if you want to add any extreme reach schools to your list, those tend to be some of them adding the colleges that are among the most selective colleges and universities in America. Those are schools that have less than a 20% acceptance rate. Again, most selective colleges in America. There's not many schools like that. Then extreme reaches, you'll go up to 12. My advice is not to fall in love with any one school, especially your reach schools, because there's so many changes happening. So you really want to fall in love with your entire list, not just one school. There's been a lot of financial implications from COVID as well. Colleges have lost a lot of money. You know, a lot of students aren't living on dormitories. They're not getting money for the meal cards. College sporting events have been canceled and postponed. So revenue has been lost and capital investments have been paused. A lot of the new buildings are getting put on hold. Labs aren't getting upgraded. Teachers, faculty members aren't getting their salary increases as well. All of this to say, if you are a parent that's willing to pay cash money for your kid's education and a school doesn't need to give you money for school, they don't need to give you scholarships because they can see that you can pay cash money for that program, you're going to benefit from all of this. So money talks. If you can pay cash for your kids' education all 4 years and a college or university knows that, you will be benefited a lot in this. But realize colleges, many schools are need aware and some schools are need blind. So identifying the colleges and the universities that are need aware versus need blind is going to be important. What I mean by this is, you know, oftentimes the Office of Admissions will talk to the Office of Financial Aid to get a better understanding of what is it going to take to help you be a reality on their college campus. And if they see that there is a large need, meaning that you need substantial money to go to that college or university, they may shy away from giving you an acceptance. Statistically speaking, students that have a gap, meaning students that attend a college or a university, and there are substantial payments that need to be made. They need a lot of financial aid. Graduation rates can be lower. So some schools are need blind, where they will not look at all into a family's income or situations as a matter of being influenced for whether or not they'll attend that school or that university to admit you. I always advise all of my families to calculate your EFC. Your EFC stands for your expected family contribution. You really want to start this entire college planning process with an idea of what can you afford. One of the most common mistakes that students make is, or families make is, they add a bunch of reach schools to their list. Sometimes they look at the social fit of a university, but very few families even discuss money until the spring of the senior year. By that point, it's too late. You've already applied to all these colleges. So understanding your EFC, knowing how to calculate your family's expected family contribution number is going to be important. That number is going to get shared to all colleges, all universities. That is not a bill, that is a guideline. It is a starting point. It is a measure of your family's financial strength. I do a webinar on scholarships and financial aid in which I go more into the EFC. I really recommend that you all attend that. And again, examples of need blind schools such as Baylor, Rice. Baylor meets 100% full need. Trinity University meets 100% full need. So these are just some examples of colleges that will meet that need. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about test optional programs. This is really all the buzz right now. Let me end the screen share. So you are going to be applying to college and you need to know whether or not you need to submit your test score. First of all, what is a good score? So let me answer that, and make sure that you put your questions in the chat box as well. I'll be answering questions throughout the presentation, and I'll be waiting for them. Alicia, our wonderful manager of operations, to chime in with me at any point and ask a few of those. But first of all, let me go back to test optional programs. You know, I always get asked this: what test should we take first of all, the SAT or the ACT? What test is it that colleges and universities really like to see? And in a nutshell, just so you know, colleges are test agnostic. They do not care which test you submit. They really just want to see your strongest test scores. So there's that. I always recommend getting a pre-test, a practice test, starting with your freshman year of high school, just to identify a benchmark, all right? So you'll take a practice SAT and a practice ACT at home your freshman year, and then you'll retest your sophomore year to see if there's any areas of improvement. Based off of your academic plan, where you are at academically, what types of classes you're taking, and the level of rigor. Some of you will be ready to take these actual tests your sophomore year. This past year, I had a sophomore score of 34 out of a 36 on the ACT. If he would have waited until his junior year, he could have gone backwards statistically because he would have been so far removed from the content that was on that exam. So many of you need to identify, first of all, what year, when is the best time to take that test? Now, when should you submit these test scores? Okay, so several variables, because I saw a lot of mistakes this season with those of you that were submitting your tests, these test scores. It is hard for me to answer this question until you know where you're going to apply to college. You really need to have your college list done in order to decide whether or not you're going to be submitting these test scores. All right. And then once you have your balanced college list finished, my advice is to look at the 50% range for the schools that you're applying to. All right. And identify where are you at in that target. Now, once you've identified the 50 percentile range for that school, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. So make sure that you're writing this down. First of all, think about whether or not you are applying early decision or regular decision to that college or that university. If you are applying early decision, statistically, the acceptance rates are going to be a lot higher within that testing cycle. So if you are applying early decision, then realize a university admissions officer might be a little bit forgiving depending on where you're falling in within that 50th percentile range. Second thing that you need, because again, statistically, they want to admit you. If a college or university has early decision and you do not apply early decision, they know if they admit you, then they may lose you to another college or university, and they don't want to lose you. Colleges are all a business, and they are in the business of recruiting you to their college campus. The second thing you need to think about is your location. So there's a lot of states out there that tend to be busy states, meaning that colleges and universities get a ton of applications from those states. So the competition from those states it's going to be substantial. If you live anywhere in New England, if you are an applicant from Florida, California, or Texas, realize you kind of want to be in the top end of that range, because these are states that, again, colleges and universities are going to have a ton of applications from. The next thing that you need to consider is the program or the major you're applying to. Anything STEM-based or business is going to be among the most competitive program at that college campus. You need to be in the top tier range for that testing score. Nursing, architecture, engineering, again, these are among the most competitive programs for any college campus. So if you were applying to some of these highly competitive programs and you're looking at the range for those universities, especially if you're in the bottom range, you may want to consider waiting before you submit that test score. Finally, race. Many of you, if you are going to be applying as a majority student. So, and what I mean by that, a majority minority student. So, if you're white, Asian, Indian, these tend to be pretty popular applicants. So, there's going to be a lot of competition that's also going to be next to you. Females, colleges receive more applications from females than they do males, as a matter of fact, too. As you can see, it is a little bit more complex than saying if you score 1350, submit that test score. There's a lot of variables. What university are you applying to? Where are you coming from? If you live in Texas, are you at a very competitive high school? Are you at a busy high school where a ton of your classmates are going to be scoring the same, if not better, test scores? What program are you applying to? What is your race, ethnicity? Colleges do look at that as well. So important that you have a good test plan balanced out. Now, what is a good score? Let me tell you this. If you feel good about that score, if you feel that that score truly reflects your strengths, who you are, you feel good about that score, then I always want you to submit that score if you're proud of it. So, you should never feel ashamed or hold back on a score that you really feel is awesome. Secondly, because these tests are getting canceled left, right, front, and center, realize if you have an older score and you're just on the fence in terms of wanting to send it and you don't know if you should send it, but you feel like it's a pretty good score to submit, but it's an old test, college admissions officers realize a lot of these tests are going to actually have been canceled. And had they seen that you would have been able an opportunity to take a more recent test, then you probably would have improved. For example, a lot of seniors this year only had an opportunity to take their tests in the late spring one time. Summer exams got canceled, fall exams got canceled. So those older test scores, admissions officers know, had they had an opportunity to take that retest, they would have been better, possibly higher in terms of that tier. So I hope that was helpful. There's actually an article that I wrote that came out in the Austin American Statesman on whether or not you should submit your test score. So hopefully that was helpful, and maybe Alicia will be able to put that article in the chat box. Colleges, when you do not submit your test scores, or actually many colleges now have moved to what's called a holistic review. A holistic review. Very important that you all understand what that means. It will not be the SAT or the ACT test that gets you across the finish line. Many colleges are going to look at all the variables to help determine whether or not you will be the right fit for that college or that school. All signs must point to your first choice major. Clubs, organizations, activities, research opportunities. If you've done any shadowing, if you've done an internship, your essays, your letters of recommendation, selecting recommenders that are speaking to your strengths and your talents. So a holistic review is a review process in which the entire college application must read as if you are applying for a first choice major. So important that you understand that. MOOCs and capstone projects is another topic that I want to briefly cover. This is very, very important. Every single one of my scholars has these. They're working on these now. When I look back at where the college or when I look back at who is getting into the most competitive programs on a college campus, obviously lots of folks have great grades and great test scores. But there's a term called intellectual curiosity, which really does help push folks across the fence. Intellectual curiosity is a way that you can demonstrate to a college or university that you've gone through an element of self-reflection, self-discovery. You truly are committed to that discipline. And you can provide evidence of a fit to major by doing some of these MOOCs and capstones. So let me explain to you what a MOOC is and a capstone is. MOOCs stand for Massive Open Online Class. Massive Open Online Class. And what a MOOC is, you can take classes online for free and they're not for a grade, and you can take them in a particular discipline or an area of study that you're interested in, and continue your learning experience and earn a certificate in that field and include that on your resume. So Coursera.com, Coursera.org, Udemy is also another really great platform to sign up for a MOOC. For example, one of my scholars, and scholars are all those that I work with privately and independently. Yesterday, I was working with a scholar who was actually interested in getting into engineering. And so we went to udemy.com and we signed up for an engineering class on mechanical engineering, in which he's learning all about robotics. And so he'll actually take a MOOC on robotics, and then his capstone project is actually to take the material, the information he learned in that robotics MOOC, and actually build a robot using the skill sets that he learned from that and record his experience along the way. So he'll document the robots, the pictures, all of the tools, the technology, and then he's going to do a presentation on what did he learn, what did he like about the experience, what did he wish he knew more of, and he will present his findings to a faculty member and open up for a brief Q&A. It'll be a 45-minute presentation in which he will present his robot and how he built that robot. He'll record this, by the way. The faculty member will ask him questions about his research. And then what we're going to do is we're going to include that link onto his resume so that any admissions officer can click on the link and really make that resume come to life. So MOOCs are a really awesome way to dive deep into a particular topic that you're interested in learning about. Your capstone projects don't always have to be related to your MOOC. I recommend freshmen, sophomores, and juniors and rising seniors have one of each. Capstone projects and MOOCs. You normally would like to do a MOOC in the spring and the fall, and then maybe one big capstone project that you're working on over time. Another example of capstone projects would be another scholar that I was working with who's interested. I think we got a question. I'm going to take a break for a moment. Go ahead, Alicia.
Okay. Between a student who applies with no test score versus a student who applies with, say, a decent test score of 1,300 or more, would a test optional school give the student with the test score a priority if their transcript and extracurricular activities match?
So I think that you need one piece of advice that I have, first of all, if you are looking at the college and the school, and this is a great question. So whoever asked that, great. Thank you for asking this. It's important. Realize if your test score is not in the range for the college or the university that you're applying to, you've got a 1,300 and maybe the range is 1,350 to 1,450, and you don't want to submit that test score, every single thing that you are submitting to that college or university should look like a 1,350, 1,450. Your grades, your rigor, your essays, everything must complement that 1,350 to 1,450 test score as an example. So college admissions officers are going to be looking for the same tier student. You're going to want to have your entire application read as if it is in range for that test score that you're actually not submitting. So I hope that I answered your question. I'm going to go ahead and go back, but feel free again to continue putting your questions in the box as well. So that was a good question. All right, so MOOCs and capstone projects. So MOOCs are, again, online classes you can take for free. They're not for a grade. They are not required by college admissions officers, but you can work towards that certificate included on your resume. And then capstone projects are independent learning opportunities. These are projects that you are creating on your own. Also not for a grade, also not required by colleges or universities, but it's an opportunity in which you are going above and beyond, and you are saying, I really am curious about learning more about that particular subject. So as I was mentioning a moment ago, I was working with a prospective business student who wanted to get into marketing. And so she was able to secure an internship with a small business, and she's been responsible for creating all of the lead cards for that business, and also working on a blog for that small business to put out educational content related. Another example of a capstone project would be, I had someone that was interested in going into the classics, and they ended up reading, a lot of really great literature and doing a compare and contrasting research paper over this literature. I had someone that was also interested in going into interior designing, and they ended up designing their entire bedroom. Now, not physically, but on a 3D model, and picking out different furniture, colors, and just really completely redesigning the entire room using a 3D model and able to document this. So, when you are thinking about creating a capstone project, some pieces of advice for you. College admissions officers are most interested in learning about at what point did you have that epiphany while doing this project. For example, where in this project, where in this learning experiment that you created on your own, where were you at the intersection of your own brilliance, in which you said, this is where I learned the most, or I was shocked to realize and discover this particular benefit or this particular feature about this. Um, that is really what they're looking for. So make sure that when you are creating your capstone project that you are documenting that. Now, parents that are working with me, I will be doing a forum on this as well. So families that work with me, this Friday at 6 p.m., 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, there'll be a forum in which I will be talking more about MOOCs and capstone opportunities so that you all understand where you should be at in terms of that. How do you create your own capstone opportunity? There's a number of ways. You can connect with a faculty member at your high school and ask for a bonus project, but not really a bonus project. It's not going to be for a grade. But what I mean by this is many of your teachers have a bunch of projects or research opportunities that they've already thought about that they're used to giving their students, or maybe they have class assignments they never got to. In this case, that could be an opportunity that you take and work on at home. Another example for a capstone project, where to find a capstone project. Google. What is the major you're interested in going into? What topic do you want to learn about? And just Google at-home projects. So if you're wanting to learn about psychology, psychology projects to do at home. If you're interested in learning about journalism, pick any topic and explore more about that topic and do some journaling, some blogging. I had someone that was interested in going into sports management and actually started doing write-ups of all of the high school teams in his area and started talking about the different players and the different athletes at these high schools and documenting, their stats along the way. That's easy. And what a really cool thing to do too. He actually traveled around to all the different high schools and would take pictures of their live events and would interview the athletes. He wants to go into sports management. He's applying to a program within the College of Communications. So really, really cool stuff. So you can Google projects to do. You can connect with a faculty member as well. And again, my best piece of advice is to really lay out that platform, lay out what are you wanting to solve? What are you wanting to answer? Your capstone project can be something you do in a day, but the best ones take a little bit of time. And I would encourage you to consider doing a project in the fall and or in the spring as well. So I'm going to move forward with the rest of the presentation. Okay, great. So, another thing that you want to do is you need to get virtual and make sure that you are making a pivot. As I mentioned before, college admissions officers are extremely curious with understanding what have you done with your time. Did you just decide you were going to be an online student, or are you going to write about how everything got canceled in your life and you weren't able to do anything at all? Or are you going to go out there and create learning opportunities? So the word of the year is pivot. You want to make sure that you are pivoting. As I mentioned before, demonstrating interest is going to be extremely, extremely important. Demonstrating interest is showing a college or a university that you are actually interested in going there. You are researching them. Many colleges have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in software tracking systems in which they are monitoring your level of engagement with that college or with that school. So for example, how do you know if a school is actually tracking your level of engagement? How do you know that? Well, if you go to the common data set and you can look up any college or any university, type in that university name. For example, I'll just say, Duke common data set. If you scroll down to the C7 block, it will tell you whether or not they factor in your level of interest. Look for the block C7 level of applicants' interest. I'll do the screen share in just a moment. You'll see what I'm referring to. And if you see that they are tracking your interest, you definitely want to be demonstrating interest. What do I mean by demonstrating interest? What I'm referring to is, again, your level of engagement with them. So ways that you can demonstrate your level of interest is by connecting with your admissions officers. No one should be submitting college applications to a school without actually knowing who their admissions officer is. If you don't know how to do this, then I really recommend that you attend my College Planning 101 webinar in which I go more into that. So connecting with your admissions officers. And when you do that, have your transcripts and resume handy. By the way, on the common data set, this is the slide here. You'll look for the university name, and below it'll say whether or not they consider your level of applicants' interest. And in this example, this particular university does. So if you are, especially if it's a very important or considered, and you are not engaged with that school, then that could be a hindrance to your application. So again, demonstrating interest, connecting with admissions officers, subscribing to their blogs, subscribing to their newsletters, getting on their mailing list, following them on social media as well. The number one way to demonstrate interest is actually to apply early decision. That is the number one way to demonstrate interest. You are telling an admissions officer that if you admit me, I am going to attend your college or your university. I mentioned this at the very beginning. Colleges are all a business, and they are in the business of recruiting you to their college campus. You see, colleges have goals, they have quotas that they have to meet, all right? They have an incoming freshman class that they need to fill. And they are going to report all of their statistics to the public. So everybody, as I just showed you, I can find a lot of information about that college or that university. When a college or a university has a high yield, all right, when a college or university has a very high yield, then that means they're a very popular school. Look at us. We admitted a small number of students, all right, and then we ended up having a very high yield. So that number, that means that college or university is going to be extremely, extremely popular. They have to report their yield rates, their retention, how many students are graduating in the following year, and they want to be able to say that they have a low acceptance rate. For example, Harvard, 95%, 5% acceptance rate, all right, a low acceptance rate, a high yield. Out of the 5% we admitted, 98% of us actually said, yes, we're going to your school. That makes a school look extremely popular. People want to go to a school like that. The more college applications a college or university receives, the lower the acceptance rate that they can provide to the public, the more popular the school looks, right? So whenever a college or university has an acceptance rate of like 75%, 85%, these schools tend to have what's called open enrollment. May not be a really exciting program or university for some people that are looking up schools to see. And when they have an 85% acceptance rate and only maybe a 25% yield, meaning like 25% out of all of our applicants said yes to us, that school doesn't look very popular, does it? So all of these metrics, all of these things that I'm talking with you about is extremely important for you to consider. All right, so early decision, that is the number one way to demonstrate your interest. When you are researching a college or a university, and hot off the press, by the way, you guys, on my YouTube page, and I'm going to go ahead and look this up as I'm talking to you, I'm going to multitask. You all need to know how to research a college or a university by virtually. So in the chat box, I'm actually, and I haven't even watched this yet, my graphic designer just did this, but in the chat box, I'm going to put my step-by-step guide for researching a college or university. Really important that you know how to do this. So you're not just going to read about the University of Texas. You're going to first of all identify the major that you are interested in applying to. And then from that point, then you're going to research, you're going to read about the department, look at the curriculum, look at the faculty members, look at the research they're doing. That is the engine of the car, all right? You're not going to be a business major, you're going to be a finance major within the College of Business. And the finance department is going to be where you spend most of your time. So it's important that you know whenever you are researching a school virtually, which by the way, in the chat box, I just put a link in there in which it's a video of me showing you how to research a college or university virtually. You go to the department. The next thing you need to look at is the stats. So I'm telling you how to research a school virtually. Look at the department, read about the faculty members, the research, the catalog, get familiar with that. The second thing you need to do is look at the stats for that college or university. Get familiar with the acceptance rate, the test, the SAT, ACT types of tests you'll need to take. Get familiar with all of the different types of entrance exams that you'll need to take for that a university as well. The next thing that you want to do before you actually, when you are looking at applying to that school or that university, if you are realizing that you do want to learn more about that school, connect with your admissions officer at that university. So for example, I work with a lot of folks that want to apply to Johns Hopkins University. You could type in the university name, and I'm showing you how to find your admissions officer and then admissions counselor, all right? And then oftentimes your admissions counselor will be public. If you live in Austin, your admissions officer's name is Monica Herrera. Monica is the one that's going to be reviewing your college application. So if you are interested in applying to Johns Hopkins, you would connect with Monica. You would let her know these 4 things. These 4 things. Here's how you introduce yourself to an admissions officer. 1, you need to tell them your name. 2, you need to tell them what is the year that you're graduating high school. 3, you need to tell them what major are you interested in learning about at Johns Hopkins. You don't want to say, I'm interested in applying to Johns Hopkins. Be specific. What major? What department? And the 4th thing that you need to tell Monica or your admissions officer is, what high school are you at? Monica needs to know, your admissions officer needs to know that you're in their territory. So your name, your grad year, the major that you're interested in applying to, and also what high school are you at? That is how you introduce yourself to an admissions officer. When you meet with your admissions officer, you know so much about that college, university. You can probably teach the admissions officer a bunch of stuff. So when you meet with your admissions officer, you know all about the program, you know all about the admissions requirements, you know about the stats to get in, you know so much so that the conversation can really be a meaningful conversation. And by the way, be prepared. Your admissions officer is probably going to add notes about you to your file so that when you do apply to that college or that university, your admissions officer can reflect back and they have documentation of that conversation. When I worked in college admissions for 10 years, I kept track of everything. Every time you called me, anytime you visited my college campus, were you subscribed to our newsletter? Were you actually clicking on the links? Were you opening the newsletters? I kept track of everything. And if I had to make a really tough decision, whether or not I was going to admit applicant A or B, well, if I knew applicant A, you tell me. If I knew that I had to place bets, I only had a few seats left and I didn't want to give an offer, I couldn't give an offer to everybody. I can only give offers to those that are really wanting to attend my college campus, then you tell me where I'm going to take the bets on. So demonstrating interest is important. Oh, and another pro tip, make sure that you follow up with your college admissions officer with a handwritten thank you note. A handwritten thank you note. How many high schoolers are going to do that? Not many. And guess what Monica's going to do? She's going to take that handwritten thank you note, she's going to put it on her desk, and she's going to see your name every single day. And when you submit your college application to Monica, she has your name memorized and she's going to feel really good about it when she sees your name. So, you know, you all know that I have an MBA in international business, but my bachelor's degree was in psychology. And I loved studying psychology, and it is proven, there's been a lot of research that there is an association built whenever you see a name multiple times. And a lot of times related to the research that I studied with my undergrad, you know, if there is some warm and fuzzy feelings associated with that name when they see your college application, you want that experience. You want that happening. You want an ally inside the admissions roundtable. So always follow up with your college admissions officer with a handwritten thank you note, thanking them for their time. They have a really, really hard job right now, you guys. So you want to be totally graceful with that. Okay. back to my presentation. Here we go. Great. So follow colleges, subscribe to newsletters, make sure, for those of you that are working with me, I'm referring to your College Connect form. This is the form, that is my step-by-step guide for researching a college or a university. Make sure that you do one of those for every single school that you are researching, and make sure that that form goes inside your Google Drive. That's because I'll be reviewing that. Alicia, you have a question?
Yes, they're going back a ways to something that you talked about towards the beginning. Their question is, did I hear you say that college applications are open for fall 2022?
All right, good. So looks like, oh, that's from Hillary. Hillary, thanks for asking that question. I'm so glad that you actually asked that question. No, you cannot apply for school yet. What my timeline for applications, and again, I really want to make sure that you do attend College Planning 101. But normally college, we get started on college applications around February, March of the junior year, getting started on the main essay. That main essay is a beast. It is the hardest part of the entire college application. We're done with the main essay in the summer. We're focusing on the short answer questions in August. I know that you guys are wondering, like, what is the short answer question? There's more than one essay that you guys are going to have to write. Record this year, someone that we worked with had 49 short answer questions. I thought I was going to stab my eyeball out. She got it done though. So anyway, yeah, you'll have a main essay and you'll have a short answer question. And then I always like to have those applications done and submitted by October the 1st of the senior year. Most college applications for the class of 2022, those applications are going to open up around August. If you're in Texas, some applications will actually go live in July. That's crazy. That's so early. All the more reason why you want to be among the first to get your college application submitted so that your application is on the top of the stack. There's benefits for that. Attend my college planning webinar. And so, yeah, so your applications, don't worry, don't panic, have not opened yet. And thanks for your question, Hillary. There is a brand new COVID prompt, which will very likely be on your college applications. And it's going to ask, how did you handle this? What you don't want to do is you don't want to talk about how you were bored and how you were quarantined and, and share some of the same experiences everyone else had. Alicia, did we have another question?
Yes, they're asking about talking to the admissions counselor. What year in high school should they begin talking to admissions counselors at colleges?
Now, if you are in high school and you have not been connecting with your admissions officers now, my freshmen, my sophomores, my juniors are demonstrating interest all 4 years. Guys, you are in a competition with your best friend in the class to get into college. You are in a competition for scholarships. You need to build rapport with the person that's going to be reviewing your college application. So freshmen, sophomores, juniors, it is game on. All this information is for your grade. So you can go ahead and start demonstrating interest now. So that's a very good question. Did we have any other questions, Alicia?
No, we're good for now. Thank you.
Great. Yep. Nope. Thanks to whoever asked that question. Do not wait, because realize, you want to have researched between 20 and 25 colleges. Now, you're not going to apply to all 25 colleges. You can only go to one school anyway. But in order to really get through the process of vetting out one of the biggest decisions you're ever going to make in your entire life, where are you going to go to college? I mean, take it from the past president of their alumni association. It is a lifelong association where you go to college. You don't want to get this wrong. And you don't want to be a statistic that says 30% of you guys are going to transfer all over the place. So, if you're going to research between 20 to 25 colleges, which is what I do with my scholars, out of that 20 to 25 schools, it's going to take some time. It's going to take 4 years to do things right. And then from the 20 to 25 colleges, you'll narrow things down to your top 15 by really January of your junior year, this month of your junior year. And then by May of your junior year, you'll take that top 15 and you'll have your balanced college list of 6 to 8 schools. You'll have targets, I'm sorry, you'll have safeties, targets, reaches, and then the extreme reaches we will allow for up to 12. It's hard to get to that list though if you're not picking schools the right way, and you need to be looking for the academic fit. Is the program going to be rigorous enough? Is it going to be challenging? Most students only consider the academic fit when they're looking for a college, and that's a big mistake because two, you need to be looking at the social fit. Are there clubs and organizations on that college campus? Do you really vibe well with the community? The first year dropout rate, guys, is 50%. 50% of college students drop out their first year. And the number one reason why they drop out is because they say they feel like they just don't fit in. And then the third thing is affordability. As I mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation, we need to discuss the family scholarship. What can you guys afford? Mom and dad, please, if you don't listen to anything else I say, I am talking to you right now. Every single year, I get a parent that calls me in the spring devastated because their baby got into their number one dream reach school and they're thrilled, they're honored, they can't believe it happened. They didn't think they were going to get in, and they're devastated because they can't afford that program. And they want to know, what is there anything they can do to help their kid make that dream a reality? Your son or your daughter should not be applying to any college or any university that you all can't pay for. That's a little bit like going onto a car dealership that you have no clue whether or not you first of all, you all know what kind of car dealership you all belong on, or what kind of home you all belong on, and you'd have no business being on a Tesla dealership if you can't afford a Tesla. And so many times students are adding colleges to their list blindly without a budget. Mom and dad have no clue what they're doing. And then before they know it, it's springtime and mom and dad go, oh man, we can't afford that program. But that's where your kid wants to go to school. And you guys didn't run the numbers sooner than later. So where your son or daughter will go to college is going to be the second, or it's going to be the biggest gift you ever give them, a bachelor's degree. Focus now on strategy and your approach. Don't put any school on your son or daughter's college list that you all have not already ran the numbers on to make sure that you can afford it. So very, very important. Okay, so moving back, the COVID prompt. Make sure that you are only including extenuating circumstances. If there was a family member that got sick, if your son or daughter is student, you are responding here. If you were an essential worker, if you were at home and there were issues with the Wi-Fi, if you didn't have an adequate workspace to do well in your classes. Again, extenuating circumstances. If there was a lot of changes last year for one high school here in Austin, I'm not going to say who, but I'm sure many of you guys know who this is. But there was a period of time in which the physics teacher wasn't there. And I think they had like 2 or 3 substitute teachers for this physics class. So, that, and a lot of students, their grades suffer because of that. So, that is something that you want to talk about in the COVID prompt. We went online, we didn't have a faculty member, there were faculty issues here. So you want to talk a little bit about that. Also, something you can address in the COVID prompt is, how did you contribute to the family? How were you impacted, and what did you do in a positive way? Did you take on a new role with the family? Did you contribute to the community? How did you make things better around you? So unique extenuating circumstances. Another spot is to explain your transcripts. Many of you in the spring of last year you ended the year with a lot of P's for pass on your transcripts. And perhaps you were expecting to end the year with really great, significant grades. Maybe that B in pre-cal, you actually ended with an A in pre-cal, but your transcript shows a pass. Make sure that you explain that. Your transcripts show that you passed, but you actually brought that B or that C up a letter grade. So lots of really great content that you can apply to. If you go to my website, accesscollegeamerica.org, you're going to see there are a ton of resources available. So for example, under the services tab, attend a webinar. My entire webinar series has actually been released for the next couple of months. So tonight, Here we are, college prep in a post-COVID world. I recommend for those of you that are applying, even if you're not planning on applying to the University of Texas, I probably need to change this name, but even if you're not applying to UT, if you were planning on applying to a highly competitive university, which is UT, my approach is a holistic approach when I consult. This is a really great webinar that you all should attend. Scholarships is coming up. And so make sure that you attend any of these webinars, award-winning essays. Hey, understanding the SAT, ACT test. I'm bringing in a test prep group, and they will be doing a full presentation on the SATs, the ACT test. We'll also be discussing test optional. So these webinars are free. They're 1 hour, and I highly recommend that you register for them. Under the resources tab, more additional resources for you. I do write often for the Austin American Statesman, and I just had an article come out called How to Support Your Teen Through COVID, Stress, and Testing. Really, really great resources in here about parents, how you can support your teen. I know that there's a lot of loneliness out there. Many folks are struggling also with doing online classes, so that's helpful. Also, my article on applying test optional as well. Looks like I can't show that anymore, but anyway, test optional is right here too. Since I am on my website, we are now enrolling brand new scholars. I'm so excited. Look at this. Here's Bonnie right here. You can see her interview, Bonnie. I don't know if you've even watched this yet, but we are now enrolling new scholars to work with Bonnie. If you want to learn more about our services, you can schedule a consultation up here. You'll click on schedule session, and then we'll go ahead and get that scheduled. And then we'll be working with you and Bonnie to get a consultation scheduled. This is a free 30-minute consultation in which I go over my pricing, our packages. You'll also get a chance to connect and meet with Bonnie as well. Make sure you are following Access College America on your social media outlets too. All right, so I just want to go back again to the presentation as well. If I can get my my PowerPoint back up, just bear with me for a second. So before we close, and I want to make sure if you have any additional questions, go ahead and get those questions squeezed in right now. But before we actually close, if I can now find the pointer to share the screen, here we go. All right, so you guys already know there's lots of really great free resources to check out on my website. Check out my archived newsletters, my archived webinars, and things like that. There is an opportunity to appeal your financial aid. However, I recommend attending the Applying for Financial Aid webinar, and I'll talk more about that at that time. Check this out. Stay connected with us. You can follow Access College America on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you have a LinkedIn, make sure that you are following us on LinkedIn as well. And then, because I am doing Facebook Lives, if you do follow us on social media, send me a message. There is a free gift. I'm going to send you guys my updated resume that every single one of my scholars use whenever they submit their college applications. This is a really awesome template that I have recently revised. It is very clear, it is concise. You can use this if you were applying for a part-time job, an internship, and your college applications. So follow us on social media and I'll make sure to send that to you. Alicia, did you have a question for me?
No, I just wanted to mention if they would like, before you click say goodbye, they can save all of the information in the chat, so they'll have that later to refer back to.
Yes, that's a very good point. Thank you for reminding us. So in the chat bar, you're going to see a lot of links that we've been putting in as well. Make sure that you click on those links because those links are going to disappear once this session is over with. So you want to make sure that you are saving that to your desktop. Staying connected with us, here are the tags for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can also follow us on Twitter. I will get you that resume template if you do follow us. And again, I know that many of you emailed me about services and had questions. We do packages. I like to say for all in an airplane, your son or your daughter is the pilot. Mom and dad, you're the co-pilot. Me and Bonnie, we are the GPS. So you would essentially outsource this thing called college planning, which is very mysterious. You would outsource all of this to us. We become the project manager. We help with essay preparation. Juniors, next month, it is game on. It is time to get started. We help out with career exploration, academic planning, SAT, ACT test planning, college list building, all the way through helping you file an appeal, negotiate, interview prep, all of that. It is a very limited intake though. So we do not get an opportunity to work with everybody, unfortunately. So I do recommend that you do schedule your consultation to connect with us sooner than later. Hey, Bonnie, not to put you on the spot, but did you want to say anything before we connect, before we bounce, basically?
That's all right. No, so much great information here. And audience, if you have any questions at all, reach out, do connect. He has done a wonderful job explaining all of these things. I don't know if you all noticed, I was making a few notes and things that I wanted to talk about as well. So I look forward to seeing you all soon, and please get in touch.
Yes, and you know what? Bonnie is actually putting together, so for the families that are working with us, Bonnie is putting together an amazing lab this spring. It's going to be on career development. It's going to be a 2 to 3 hour hands-on intensive virtual workshop that's going to include career development tools, resources, exploration, and all that kind of stuff. So Bonnie is absolutely amazing with all of these tools and resources that she brings to the table. So look for information on those labs coming soon. I do want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their evening to connect with me. And I want you all to know something. Where you go to college, as I mentioned before, is going to be one of the biggest decisions you ever make in your entire life. It's going to last forever, and it's the biggest gift. Unless your mom or dad buy you a home, it's the biggest gift your mom and your dad's ever going to give you as well. So I realize this process can be complicated, it can be overwhelming, and it's very competitive. And as I've shown you, it's only getting more competitive. Start sooner than later. Do not wait until you are a rising senior to try to figure all of this out. Go ahead and start sooner than later so that you have a really great game plan. I do hope to see you guys in our very next webinar. Make sure you tell your friends and your family about the college planning webinar series too. Have a very nice night, everybody. Goodbye.